sometimes that'll hurt your fingers. So when the door is opening, move your hand away, just to be safe. Cool. Somebody else's pack job, an open burner. And once again, I'm just going to use the drawstrings. Slider comes all the way down, and then there's that magnet behind me, so I can keep the slider down. Nobody's in front of me. Alright, so see that? So if I reach through the toggle to there, that could be dangerous. So make sure, there you go, that your toggles are free and clear before you, oops, let's fix that. There we go. Okay, so the drills we're doing is working on 180-degree turns and learning how much it loses. So 5,000 feet, harness and toggle. And I'm letting it off, letting it fly on its own, and 46. Harness and toggle, 180-degree turn, but forcing it out. All right, so one for practice. I'm gonna get myself a little closer to the wind line before I do any more drills. 4,000 feet coming up now. There's 4,000, harness, toggle, forcing those brakes, coming out at the 180, 3, 8. So I lost a lot less altitude. I can do the math on the ground later, right? Doing math under canopy is not always that easy, which is why a lot of us test pilot types like microphones, you know, so you can talk it out. So another good drill is to do a harness toggle turn, sort of get it going, and then you add brakes, and then you reduce brakes. I'm still turning, I lose weight, I add brakes, I gain weight. So I'm getting the hang of turning and flaring instead of, you know, needing to finish a turn and then hands up and then start to flare. You're in the turn, and then you add the brakes, and then you zero your roll after. That will lose less altitude, you'll recover a lot sooner, and you'll like the result. So the wind line changed a little bit, and it is windier than the last jump. I'm going to double check my ground speed. So I still have forward motion to wait for the airspeed from that turn to go away. Okay, so I do have forward speed. Wow, there's some turbulence because I'm a little closer to the trees now. So I'm keeping my airspeed up. There's 12. I'm quite a ways upwind in my traverse across the wind line. I'm looking for my buddy Joe. He's above me by a couple hundred feet. And there's my turn to downwind at 900, fading to the outside a little bit, starting my turn a little before the target, and I'm going to do brakes, off, double fronts, and then I carve towards the final, drive it on down, and this is a crabbing landing. So I'm going to lean on my left leg strap and carve my way into the target. All right, do it nice, Joe. There we go. High. Keep the speed. Hands up. Arresting the dive. There it is. There it is. There it is.
It always works out. For the kind of person who says, you know, their sort of ongoing mental story is, it always works out. right? That's the magic. You don't even realize you're doing it, but you're expecting that it's going to be easy. It's going to be fun. These people are like me. And that's exactly what you experience. And you show up thinking, oh, yeah, these guys don't know me. And you keep your head down and you pack your parachute and you do solos or whatever, and you don't interact with people. And that's your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of you was right. Neither one of you was wrong. You made it what it was.
I've actually found, especially at small drop zones, the fun jumpers are excited for a new face and they want somebody different to jump with.
Yep. Yep.
They've jumped with Joe 42 times. They know what Joe's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're really excited for somebody new that has different experiences to fly with them.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Your new blood, new ideas. Creativity has to be valued in this sport, and there's a creative aspect to showing up with a new idea outside of the model of habit within the culture of this community. There's an old tradition in the Jewish tradition, right? So if somebody comes in from the outside and decides, all right, I like what you guys are doing, I'm going to convert to Judaism, they are highly valued because they're from the outside, because they have a unique perspective, and because they're passionate, about this in a way that somebody who was raised in the tradition, like, it's all assumption,
Mm-hmm.
And none of this is normal. It's all kind of magical for somebody coming in, and we need to take that same idea to skydiving. That the newer jumpers or the person from elsewhere has something to offer that the others don't. And we gotta listen to these people. The guy with 32 jumps that says, why do we do it that way? Why don't we do it this way? And always we have so many built-in automatic responses in our sport. There's just an answer that anybody would give. It would be exactly the same answer. Well, the reason why we do that is this. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just the programmed response, right? And some of those things are not correct. So the outsider that doesn't have the certainty, that still has the beginner's mind, that is actually open, offers a unique perspective. I'm thankful for all of them. There's definitely a lot of program responses. I've been noticing that a lot. Not just, I got attacked by an old friend on the internet about politics. And I wasn't even saying anything out of the box. I was reaching for connection. She's extremely right-wing, and I'm extremely middle. And she made me, in her mind, to be extremely left-wing because she was looking for that fight. She was expecting that fight. I'm like, no, I'm not that guy. I'm middle road, you understand? And so we do exactly the same thing in our sport with people that just automatically respond in a certain way, certain words. It's a program, right? If you instantly respond with predictable words, you're not being you, you're just being the program. So that's where I think we need to sort of pay attention to the unconscious automatic responses that we have and have a little bit more maybe.
Is there a specific area you see this in?
I see it a lot with, things like exit order, in airplane, procedures and things like that. They don't think about it. They just do what they're told. Or emergency procedures. They just do what they're told. Line twist procedures, getting out of that situation. It's a programmed response, and they've said it so many times that they've, sort of brainwashed themselves into only seeing the response, and then the mind shuts off. And it's not healthy. We have to say, well, here's what we've been taught. You begin when you see the program triggering, you say, well, here's the normal rhetoric. Here's the normal thought process. This is what's in USPA's BSRs or training, IRM or whatever. And you present it that way. And then you say, but what if? What if the cutaway procedure was this, and then stack and punch? That requires kind of a brave set of thoughts to go outside of the automatic. It's the safest way to do things. Flying through clouds. We have this assumption in this country that you cannot and should not ever fly your parachute through a cloud. And we all know that there's huge value in being near a cloud in terms of that relative reference and seeing exactly what happens, because the cloud is motionless. And it's better than another canopy even, because the canopy is moving, right? It's not a real point in space. So you don't learn as much. And that program response of, like, you got to protect your pilot, you go through clouds, and the pilot could lose their license and all that stuff, and you can get fined $1,000 per occurrence, and all that is true. And yet there's another side to that story. And we need to sort of know when when we can bend a rule, when we should break a rule because it's safer to break a rule, and when there's sort of that gray area where you have to make a judgment call. I'm jumping in a busy airport. There's lots of other airplanes around. I want that relative reference, but not today. I don't want to be lost, sort of on the edge of a cloud and some airplane comes out of there and runs me over. So that's not a time to do that. But there is time. There are situations when breaking a rule is the best thing to do. So it's just the revisiting that I'm hoping that people revisit every single hard and fast rule, and maybe you go full circle and you end up, actually I feel like that's the way we've been doing it is the right way to do it. But don't do it blindly. Don't do it automatically and unconsciously and just regurgitate, blurt rules. You become officious, too officious. What was it, Harold and Maude, where the cop pulls her over and he's like all cranky, and she's this sweet old lady that's very free spirited. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Harold and Maude. Fantastic movie. Cat Stevens music, really good stuff. And she's like, yeah, that's the curse of being in a government job. That the blinders of not seeing me as a person, but seeing me as a perp. So you're a rule breaker, and my job is to put you in the back of my squad car or write you a ticket or whatever. But it is a curse, but it doesn't happen. When you're the person loading the airplane and you think things through, and the automatic lineup says this, but now there's an exception to that rule, and you have to think for yourself and change those rules a little bit so that it's actually safer, not just adherent to the rules.
Looking at being able to separate what we've been taught and what may or may not be true and thinking through, I think that's a problem in our sport, along with people packing their own names. And I think some of these are the same people that they'll take what they've been taught, but they're not going to spend a whole lot of time investigating the rest of the story.
Right.
And this comes back to the packing themselves, being involved with your reserve repack.
Yep.
I think some folks just don't want to look that deep into the sport for one reason or another.
Yep.
For some, for no reason, maybe. That's all the time they want to put to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a time investment. It can also be fear, especially at the beginning. You just want to do what you're taught. You're just trying to remember the rules, right? Because you can't be breaking rules until you know what the rules are. So there is certainly that phase one of remembering the status quo methodologies, and then you go back and optimize and tweak, become more intelligent about it, and adapt. And but when they get 500 or 1,000 jumps and they're still just blindly blurting rules at you that may or may not make sense, that's not so healthy. And I'm not really sure why that occurs. I think it's probably just the programming from our culture to follow rules, sit down and shut up, be convenient for the leaders, and just be a good little sheep. Do what you're told. We're all recovering from that. To be open-minded in a way that is hungry for truth. What is the truth of everything we do? And that truth is conditional, and it's evolving, and it requires a continual reevaluation and enough uncertainty and comfort with grace, with not being absolutely certain long enough to reevaluate.
To bring back my grace and my playful childlike capabilities, my athleticism shows up when I'm happy. to respirate my way into intelligence, to bring back my grace and my playful childlike capabilities. My athleticism shows up when I'm happy.